Hey guys, Cruz here, and welcome to this video where we will be checking out a Deepwood Noble list. Now, most Deepwood lists lean into the treant units because it's a very good unit, like the double treant list shown here. But I really wanted to make a list with the Deepwood Noble, and I just wasn't able to make that work with the treant. So I ended up with this, a fast and shooty list with 7 units. To make it more punchy, I had the druid take wild form and thousand mouth so he could also apply some range pressure straight up. Now, on the noble, of course cruelty, because cruelty, elven accuracy and hunter's bow means that you get 3 shots that almost never miss, and altogether that should make this list very powerful against armies going lots of cheap units. So let's jump into game 1 and see if I'm able to outshoot or outmaneuver my enemies. My first opponent is Robotnik on Knights of Avalon, and I see a lot of defense 4 and defense 5 and not so much defense 3, but there is one unit of halberdiers and I am hoping to be able to bring the pain to them. Now his list has 3 units of fast moving knights, one of them being the Pegasus Knights that fly. So I am hoping that I don't just get charged off the map. So for my first shots, I decided to shoot onto the unicorn because the rangers should not have to reroll, and I am actually able to do a wound onto it, which is not too shabby. He moves his halberdiers forward. This brings me no amount of joy, or actually a big amount of joy, because I can then start shooting at. I move a chariot up on the side, positioning myself as to not be flankable by the unicorn, and hopefully that will allow me to intercept something he charged with his knights. He just webbed the chariot, which I had forgotten he could do. So let's see if I get punished hard for just moving my unit out there like that. Since this is my first game, I had forgotten that 1000 mouths has pretty short range. But at least I roll pretty well once I finally get around to shooting it. And I do 4 wounds. Not too shabby. His knights move into position and they can charge basically anything there now. And at this point, since the new list I've been playing a bit slow, I am running out of time. I barely have time to get my final shots off. But you can see the noble with the cruelty bow doing work onto those halberdiers, and that is a very weak unit of halberds now. My final unit I place, hoping to be able to save the used to charge into the knight and paladin over on the right side. I decide to start by charging my druid so he can't charge his knights over on the left side into my druid. He then charges into the rangers with his unicorn, uses his Pegasus Knights to charge into my chariot, and gets a flank onto my Deepwood Guard with his knights. So far, not looking too amazing, but my druid and the riders should finish off the halberdiers, and I do still have a unit of riders mobile that I can move around. Not passing that discipline check though is not the best thing, so hopefully I don't get too ruined by it. I think my opponent divine favored his Pegasus Knights to ensure that they won against the chariot there. I pop beast form to really ensure that those halberdiers go down and that they run away. And I get another volley of shots off against the unicorn. But he rolls really good saves and takes no damage. And my final move is to send my chariot away from the right flank. That flank is lost, there's no reason to stay there. And as his paladin and sword knights ram into my spears, I'm actually able to pull off a draw. Makes me very happy. Stops him from getting 50 points. Alright, one halberdier lives, but the objective is mine. And my chariot does not hold and runs off the map. Now, I'm not sure if it's worth it to intercept the unicorn to save the rangers, but I decide to do it. Let's see what my opponent does with that. Over on the right side, his swords are probably just going to move into a flank the Deepwood Guard. I do pop the Hunter's Call for that +1 skill to make the spears a bit less likely to take damage. We can also see that the spears was able to get a draw over on the right. It's just because those sword knights have defense 5 and not defense 6 like the King's Guard had. So quite a noticeable nerf for Knights of Avalon. Now I just place my rangers, knowing that he can get the flank, a back flank onto them with the Pegasus Knights. I'm okay with that. I also managed to pick up the last halberdier, and I get 12 more hits, and he gets 12 saves, because rolling 1s is illegal against 1,000 mouths, so he takes 0 wounds. I do try to place myself so that he cannot flank my droid with his Pegasus Knights, which he did not do. This time around he takes no wounds and he ends up scaring me off the objective. Meanwhile, my druid goes in and manages to do a win by 5 against the unicorn, so it flees off the map. Against the knights here with divine favor, I win by 3, and then he just rolls really poorly and they flee. Now, of course, this allows me to front charge with the chariot onto his Pegasus Knights, because he had just put them into the forest for no reason. And then I also get a flank onto the Pegasus Knights from the druid. And then when his knights fail their second rally, my opponent gives up. So, not the opponent we were looking for, but still happy with a win. On to the next game. Next game is against Dwarf with double cavalry and a ranger captain on a desert map, which is my least favorite thing in the world. Also, my opponent deployed in a way where he gets a shot of first. I get lucky and only lose 1 of my riders, but at this point I'm already not too happy with the matchup, because there is gonna be no units defense 3 or lower here. It's gonna be defense 4 all the way. His ranger captain positioned in a way where he can also shoot around my initial deploy, just showing how incredibly hard it is to deploy safely. Like, I got lucky on both cases there, and yeah, I still have quite the distance to go as my opponent deployed in the far right corner, and the range pressure just builds and builds. Now, my Deepwood Rangers were luckily placed in a manner where they could not get shot, so I move them forward, but they have a long way to go before they can join the fight. And against defense 4, it's gonna be not gonna be a match where I'll be able to have the ranged advantage, to say it like that. Now I move a chariot over to the side so I can just charge it into the rangers next round, because I feel that it might be worth it. to just sacrifice a chariot into it. And I do my best to try to clean out his miners before they can get onto the objective, rolling an amazing 4 hits on 1,000 Mouths, showing what an amazing spell it can be. My opponent putting up a neat little battle line. And I am once again running out of time, to the point where I don't have time to shoot all my shots even. Managed to pick up 1 berserker. It is rough to be ranged attack power 3 in this economy. And my opponent moves his flying machine forward to shoot and opens up a flank onto himself, I hope. It's always a bit risky with these things. And I barely managed to get a shot off before my time runs out. But in the end, I get rewarded with a flank charge onto him. Not only does that flank charge stop him from charging into my riders, it also lets me protect my riders from the cannon. Now I move my spears forward to keep him off the objective. Not that he could get on to it right away. And I noticed that my rangers are in trouble because I cannot get away from the catapult shot that is coming. I do get the 3 kills there, and I move my rangers forward, hoping to be able to salvage at least one of them. They're all worth points. Now, at this point, my opponent is playing his ranged units last. I guess he's hoping to keep me from doing crazy things with my cavalry. I am able to get some shots off. And you can see that even if I don't roll the best, I am, well, at least trying to put on some range pressure, and I'm also able to move myself into a flank position onto the ranger captain. This leaves him with just the Deepwood Guard and the rangers as the targets to shoot on. So of course he shoots onto the rangers. I roll 14 hits and manage to do 2 wounds. And I guess I should be very grateful for doing any wounds at all using 1,000 Mouths. Well, that is, would I recommend taking this spell? I don't know. It doesn't always seem very good. Then again, every wound counts. My opponent rolls high, and now there's only 2 rangers left, and I know that he is going to be first move next round, so I'm very sad for my rangers. At least my chariot does well. Very well indeed. But then my opponent has taken 2-handed weapons and they just shred my poor chariot to pieces. That's okay. Now I do wonder for a long time if I'm going to take the fight against the berserkers there. In the end I charge back. I'm not sure if that was the smartest thing, but it opens up its back to a back charge from the Deepwood riders. And as expected, the catapult takes out the remaining rangers. I do not pop my Hunter's Call. And since I finally have last move, I am able to move around and get into a beautiful charge position where I can charge the back of the berserkers or the veterans. The berserkers do havoc onto me, and I'm only able to do 1 win back, which is very well rolled by my opponent. Luckily over on this side I am able to do some good work into his rangers, and I win by 5, so he runs. And now I have to choose, do I want to save the right side or the left side? And in the end I decide to go into the veterans. And then I will just quickly pick up the ranger captain with a charge with my noble. And then all should be good. I do pop Hunter's Call now, so I'm skill 5 on other riders. Riding into the veterans. I also pop Wild Form, so I can get 4 attacks and clean some up. That's the miners. I win by 1, and they actually end up running. That's good. And I should be able to get a flank onto the veterans as well, so this is all going according to how I thought it would play out. But of course, we can see that his berserkers have managed to get into position to charge into my noble, and somehow I roll really poorly and my opponent, as a ranger captain, does not die. That is a bit of a disaster for me, because I don't have the shots to shoot him, so now I have to hope that he does not rally. Because that guy is worth a lot of points with cruelty and skilled. I think it's like 80 points right there. Meanwhile, his cannon does finish off my Deepwood Guard. I am safe fighting against the veterans. His ranger captain rallies, but his miners do not. At this point, it's just down to the dice. And I'm sort of... it was the wrong choice to go into the veterans. But I guess I got like tunnel vision on the fact that this was my objective. And I wanted to keep that one safe. So if I were to replay this game, I would have gone into the back of the berserkers. Because suddenly I lose 2 riders and my noble, and I'm not able to take out his catapult, nor am I able to take out his ranger captain after, so it all cascaded pretty much. And this now, this miner is rallying as well. I'm getting a bit worried. Like, I got 2 more turns to finish off the veterans, but other than that, might get very close point-wise. Like, I have a 100-point lead, but that was basically what he saved just from his ranger captain. So let's see, he has 2 artillery pieces, that's 100 points. I have 2 units, he has 3 units, so I need to take down these veterans. And I do get some hits, but they do what dwarf units do, and they hold. In the end, the score ends up being an 84 points victory for my opponent. On to the final game. And here I finally queue into someone who runs an army with multiple defense 3 units. So I'm very, very happy here. And let's see if the list can do what it's can it beat what it's supposed to beat. I start by moving my spearmen forward so they cannot get flanked. Then I put my next spearmen unit forward, trying to leave a bit of a gap to shoot through, and so they cannot get flanked by the dread knights nor the bats. At this point, I'm doing my best to stay away from the zombie giant and to put on some range pressure. can see he moved his spearmen forward and chose to raise that on them. Which means it's time for me to start unleashing the range damage. I do 1 wound with the rangers. And I do have a mistake here. My rangers actually touch the forest. So now I'm a bit unhappy because that means his zombie giant can charge into them. But my opponent does not realize. So I managed to go unpunished. Let's see. 1000 mouth, 9 heads. Does 5 wounds. Finally, it's doing something good. Against defense 3 after all. It's only 5 ups. 3 up saves instead of 2 up saves. So it's a lot better. My opponent plagues the Deepwood Noble. And I realize I Legoed myself in very trickily, but I do manage to find an angle to shoot at the necromancer anyways. And after some more wiggling, I also managed to shoot with the noble and miss all of the shots. Now my opponent has last move, so I just want to avoid getting jumped and giving away a flank or something. I do move my chariot forward so that he will have to charge the chariot with his dread knights instead of my spears, and then I can flee with the chariot. That's my plan here. Of course, I messed up, and he can still charge my spearmen, and he moved his bats forward to flank into my chariot, which is a flank I will gladly take. He also charges his bats into my Deepwood Rangers, so the mistake does come into play, and he charges his knights into the front of my chariot. So now I'm pretty sure that that chariot is gone. So some slight misplace from me there, but then again, with all these ranged units, time does become a bit of a pressure point. And some people might say that I'm not the fastest player anyways. My opponent races back the skeletons I killed. He is now at +1, but he has used both his races, and I get very lucky taking out 7 there. It's good to see that 1000 mouth isn't completely useless, right? And I tried to place myself so that I will not be charged by his dread knights next round. I move my noble forward, hoping to maybe assassinate the necromancer. And of course to keep piling on the range pressure. I think I've killed more than 20 skeletons so far, and it's turn 2. So, you know, this is working. And my opponent's final move, he moves the zombie giant forward. And I'm thinking it's probably not gonna be able to charge anything there, because if I lose 1 ranger, he can't charge them. So that's what I'm gambling on. Over on the left, we can see the dread knights and bats destroy my chariot, which is expected. And the bats fly face first and into the rangers and get beaten up, as rangers tend to do against bats. I will admit I was a bit lucky, but not crazy. My opponent sees the danger to himself with the necromancer, so I charge in my... So he charges my spears. That's okay for me. I also charge the zombies on the one side, because I want to start killing them, basically. My rangers get up some shots against the bats, who of course save every single one. And I move my rangers forward, not afraid of losing or being side charged by the zombie giant there. Like, if he charges them, that's fine. That's the price you have to take. Those are zombies forward. At this point, I'm like, Guess I can get even more shots fired onto the fell bats. At some point they're going to save some fails, right? And they do. Noble should also be able to pick off. So, gets 2 hits, does 1 more wound. And I decide to put my Noble and the Riders in front of the Dread Knights so that they're locked in place. Because that is a pretty comfortable spot flee for me. I think he'll have to charge me multiple times to be able to chase me off the board in that angle. I do try to kill off even more bats with my Druid, but I fail. And my opponent's Zombie Giant is his last move. So I think, alright, I'll just let him come side charge me. And I put myself there. But my opponent decides to go for a front charge, which is, I think it's a good choice. Like, it stops me from fleeing away from him and getting away. I win by 2. And finally all the pesky skeletons are dead around the Necromancer. And as expected, the spearmen are able to thoroughly beat up the zombies. So things are working as planned. Of course, I might have to have my rangers fight some zombies. But, you know, whatever will be, will be. He does intercept the zombie giant into my chariot, meaning the zombies go into my rangers. And I decide to take that fight instead of fleeing. Now I need this noble to rally, and it does. And the charge failed for my druid onto the bats. Alright. My opponent uses Reanimate for 2. Try to save his Necromancer. It should still be an easy fight for the Spearman. Necromancer decides to go strongman mode, and together with his skeletons manage to kill 3, and then he saves everything, and luckily my Spearmen live. So sometimes the dice decide to make it very interesting. Luckily the zombies don't spike as well. In the fight against the zombie giant, I lose by 1, but my chariot holds. So the dice, they're being mean, but they're also being nice. And even though I lose, and I do win against the zombies as well with the rangers. Because if those zombies could side charge my noble, I would be having a problem. Alright, druid against the Dread Knights. I flee. I just need the spearmen to finish off that necromancer. And of course to rally for my druid. My opponent rolls another good roll on his reanimate, so now I'm suddenly outnumbered in the fight over there. And after trying for a while to get a side charge onto the Dread Knights, I give up and just move them away. And my opponent uses another reanimate, so you know, he's really raising his army back up again. Luckily, it ends up as a draw at least, so I don't run away. And against the zombies, I am grinding them down. They don't all die this round. And over here, we can see I managed to do a wound back onto the giant and lose by 1. But elven chariots, they don't run, so I somehow managed to keep the chariot alive for another round. Zombies versus rangers becomes a draw. And as turn 6 comes around, my opponent's Dread Knights have to choose. Do they keep running? they keep running. So I just flee with my druid. Looking at the game state right now, it actually looks kind of even. My spearmen in the forest will finish off the zombies, and my spearmen on the objective are likely to not run away, but they're not going to kill off all those skeletons. The chariot should die, and the rangers against the zombies, that is I guess it's a 50-50. Now I should be able to get a good back charge onto the Dread Knights, and that will probably cost him a lot of points. And that is at this point in the game, as I'm trying to place my noble in a way where the bats cannot charge me, that the game ends. Looking at the score, it looks like I might have won, but I think if all of those fights had gone against me, I probably would have lost. So after having played a handful of games with this list, what do I think? Well, I think the best thing about the list is that it's fun. Like, I don't know why, but Deepwood Noble with cruelty, it's just fun. Adding to the meme factor of the 1,000 mouths and the fact that the list isn't completely useless, I had a lot of fun playing this list. That being said, the list felt really bad against opponents who only had defense 4 or higher. And to be fair, it's not like the list looked dominant against the undead list either. Would I recommend this list? Well, not for climbing the ladder, but if you just want to have fun, enjoy it. And if goblins and newt take over the meta again, this list is actually going to be pretty good. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.